Chapter 31. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Outside the cave, a grizzled old guy stood with a nasty smirk plastered on his face. You could feel the power radiating off him, no doubt about it. He was a big shot, a god-level cultivator. Turns out, this was the same rogue cultivator from the divine platform realm whose grandson had bought the farm a few days back. He'd been dogging Yi Qiu's trail, using some secret tracking skill he'd picked up in some ancient ruin. Fulmer, just you wait. Grandpa's gonna send Yi Qiu down to pay his dues. His face hardened, and he swung a palm. Boom! The cave entrance was obliterated. Cough, cough. A figure stumbled out of the dust cloud, looking like he'd been through a meat grinder. It was Yi Qiu. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. He stared at the old man, a chill running down his spine. He knew he was running on fumes. This was bad. One wrong move, and he was a goner. The old man's grin widened. Nowhere left to run, you little rat. Time to die. He unleashed a massive hand, crackling with lightning. It was an executioner's blow, promising instant annihilation. He was overflowing with hate for Yi Qiu. Originally, he wanted to drag out his suffering, but seeing him now, he couldn't restrain himself. He just wanted to squash him like a bug. Yi Qiu grit his teeth. Xian Fire Transformation. Mountain Fire Cauldron. A massive cauldron made of pure flame materialized above him, humming and spinning, sucking in the lightning and the giant hand. Yi Qiu's face turned ashen. He coughed up blood, his energy almost completely depleted. The old man was taken aback. He hadn't expected Yi Qiu to have that kind of fight left in him. But looking at Yi Qiu's fragile state, he knew the kid was running on empty. He smirked, channeling more lightning into his palm. A deafening thunderclap ripped through the air as a bolt of pure destruction hurtled toward Yi Qiu. Despair washed over Yi Qiu. He was tapped out. Was this it? Was this how it ended? No. He couldn't accept it. He hadn't gotten his revenge. The injustice burned in his gut. The lightning was inches away. Yi Qiu's eyes were filled with hopelessness. He couldn't even twitch, so he braced himself for oblivion. Then, out of nowhere, a hand reached out and snatched the lightning bolt from the air. With a gentle squeeze, the lightning winked out of existence. The same hand casually flicked out a palm strike at the old man. It looked weak, but the old man reacted as if facing an army. Their palms collided with a thunderous roar, and the old man staggered, the air behind him detonating. Boom! The void behind him exploded, kicking up a hurricane that flattened everything. A man in white appeared in front of Yi Qiu. He was like a god descending, radiating power. The old man's face went white. The newcomer radiated an intense sense of power. Who are you? Why are you interfering? He demanded. The man ignored him. Buzz off, he said softly. The old man's blood boiled. Sure, the man looked like a god-level cultivator, but so was he. He wasn't about to back down, not when he was about to make Yi Qiu pay. Black Dragon Myriad Law Bell, the old man roared, unleashing his full power. His whole body transformed into a giant black bell. It rang, a sound like a dragon's roar, and sonic waves ripped through the area, vaporizing the surrounding mountains. The bell morphed into a colossal black dragon, snapping its jaws at the man in white. Insignificant, the man said. He raised his right hand, and 7 beams of sword-like energy materialized behind him, shooting skyward. They twisted and roared, shredding the black dragon to pieces. Then he teleported in front of the old man and crushed his skull with a single palm. The old man was a divine platform cultivator. A wandering master who had traveled the world for over a century, a legend in his own right. Yet, he was casually one-shot by this guy. The man in white killed the old man, his face betraying no emotion, as if swatting a fly. He turned and approached Yi Qiu. He smiled and asked, "You okay?" Yi Qiu eyed the man warily. He didn't recognize him, and the guy gave off a seriously dangerous vibe. Even smiling, he felt like an ancient predator, capable of tearing a soul apart. Yi Qiu frowned. "Who are you?" The man in white chuckled and put his hands behind his back. Xiantian sect. Jiang Zhongbai. Chapter 32. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Ting glanced at his system. After the last reward of 15,000 villain points, he was sitting on a total of 23,000. Another free spin. Naturally, Qin Ting was eager to use it. The familiar turntable popped up, and the system asked, "Ready to roll, host?" Qin Ting nodded. "Let's do it." The pointer whizzed around the wheel before slowing to a stop. Ding! Congratulations! You've won the rare Nightmare Talisman. Nightmare Talisman? Qin Ting was curious. He examined the item's description. Nightmare Talisman: imbue the talisman into a target to mark them and induce a period of mental confusion, regardless of distance. Qin Ting was stunned. This was huge. Used right, this thing could be a game-changer. Honestly, while the system was cool, Qin Ting already had access to plenty of magic weapons and elixirs as a disciple of the Shentian sect and young master of the Qin clan. It was the luck value that truly interested him. But items like the Nightmare Talisman and paper substitutes were special, so he was definitely intrigued. Playing with the talisman, Qin Ting's lips curled into a smirk. A plan was forming. Meanwhile, in a valley in the Lianyan Mountains, Yi Qiu squinted at the white-robed figure before him, Jiang Zhongbai. The Shentian sect's top disciple. "Why did you save me?" Yi Qiu asked. Jiang Zhongbai smiled faintly. "We share a common enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Common enemy." Yi Qiu considered the words, understanding dawning. He'd heard whispers about Jiang Zhongbai's precarious position within the Shentian sect. Once the presumed holy son, he was reportedly edged out by Qin Ting's sudden arrival. This guy was willing to risk everything by contacting outsiders to target his own sect members. This Jiang Zhongbai had guts. Jiang Zhongbai felt the pressure mounting. Qin Ting had been tightening the screws lately, and it was getting harder to breathe. Years ago, he could go toe-to-toe with Qin Ting. But ever since Qin Ting broke through to the supernatural power realm, his supporters had abandoned ship, either joining the Qin clan or remaining neutral. His situation in the sect was deteriorating rapidly. Rumor had it that Emperor Qin was about to emerge from seclusion. If that happened, Jiang Zhongbai's chances of a comeback would be gone. This was his only shot. Jiang Zhongbai studied Yi Qiu. Despite only being in the divine will realm, he was no pushover. Anyone who could escape Xuehua and Niayu was not just a mortal. Niayu was a general of the Qin family. His Taoist practice was top-notch and he ranked among the strongest in the Shentai realm. As for the old man of blood and fire, he was a powerhouse in the divine palace realm, a top figure in the eastern wasteland. He was a demon cultivator and his physical body was stronger than even the most powerful Xian Xiu. Even Jiang Zhongbai wasn't sure he could walk away unscathed from an encounter with those two. Yi Qiu was something else. Jiang Zhongbai smiled. "So, what do you say? You want to team up and take down Qin Ting?" Qin Ting's image flashed in Yi Qiu's mind, and his bottled-up rage surged. He said without hesitation, "I'm in." A few days later, Qin Ting felt a shift. He rose and walked outside, gazing towards Visionary Valley. Flames filled the valley as a majestic underground palace rose from the earth. Niayu hurried over and bowed before Qin Ting. "My lord, a rare treasure is about to emerge." Qin Ting nodded slightly. "Gather the troops. Let's move." Niayu nodded and left. Qin Ting watched him go, his eyes narrowed. "I will win the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire." "And Yi Qiu, when will you make your move?" Chapter 34. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a bit, everyone gathered and flew down to the underground palace. Sects converged in the sky above the palace, raging flames engulfed the place, and the temperature was insane. Even hundreds of feet above, you could feel the heat. Some Yuan Dan realm disciples couldn't take it, using Taoist techniques to create protective energy shields. Suddenly, the sky lit up with dazzling colors. Qin Ting frowned. The heat was too much. Even Yuan Dan realm disciples couldn't handle it. The sects noticed the problem, and murmurs rippled through the crowd, but nobody wanted to be first, and for a moment, the scene went quiet. Then, a lone wolf cultivator in the divine will realm couldn't resist. He turned into a streak of light and shot towards the palace. He practiced fire magic and was drawn to the flames. He could handle the heat. Seeing the big sex hanging back, he thought this was his shot. He was going in first. The sex watched him go, expressions indifferent. Song Tong from Yuanshi Gate even scoffed, "Idiot." That the moment the lone wolf stepped through the gate, a burst of flames erupted. He screamed once before turning to ashes. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat. This underground palace was way more dangerous than they thought. Qin Ting thought for a second and told his people, "Yuan Dan realm disciples, back to base to rest. You're out for this trip. You too." Everyone was calm, but Zhou Pingyue opened her mouth to protest. Even though she was divine will realm, she practiced water magic. This heat would only hold her back, she would just get in the way. Suddenly, Qin Ting felt a chill. A shudder went through him, and he looked at the palace, seeing a huge shadow looming. A warning. A warning that only comes when real luck is at stake. "Yi Qiu, is that you?" Qin Ting whirled around. "Elder Lu, you're coming with me into the palace." Elder Lu looked confused. He should be escorting the Yuan Dan disciples back to base, but Qin Ting's face was serious. He just nodded. With Zhou Pingyue and the others gone, Qin Ting took point. "Let's move." The Xiantian sect followed. Seeing Xiantian sect move out, the other sects followed their lead and headed for the palace. "Go, stick with them." Some lone wolves tagged along, hoping to stay safe. Reaching the entrance, a wave of heat washed over Qin Ting. He waved a hand, and a blue light shield surrounded the Xiantian group. Instantly, they couldn't feel the heat. "Senior brother Qin is brilliant." The disciples cheered. The big sects were all in motion, rushing into the palace with a show of force. Inside was a central hall, lined with trees that must have been hundreds of feet tall and covered an area of miles. In the middle stood a sacred tree, bursting with fiery red fruit. Everyone's eyes locked on the fruit, fire cloud fruit. Not as good as Xianyang dragon fruit, but still a treasure. It could boost your cultivation and solidify your foundations, but everyone knew that the real prize wasn't the fruit, but the tree itself. That's what everyone really wanted. The treasure was right there, but nobody moved. The scene was eerily silent. Boom. The air shook. A middle-aged man soared into the sky, and a giant python burst from his body, dozens of miles long. It opened its jaws to swallow the tree whole. Someone finally snapped and made a play for the tree under everyone's noses. The guy was a powerhouse in the divine power realm, 500 years deep, with a truly terrifying foundation. His move was like lighting a fuse. Powerhouses lost their patience and launched attacks. The air seemed to explode, filled with magic and Taoist techniques. Figures rushed out, battling mid-air for the tree. Taoist and magical powers were unleashed with brutal force. Figures dropped from the sky, some wounded, others killed instantly. The other disciples from the Holy Lands mobilized, forming formations and heading for the tree. Song Tong from Yuanshi Gate laughed. "This thing is going to Yuanshi Gate. Step aside if you don't want to die." He and the disciples surrounded a Yuanshi sect elder in the divine power realm, forming the Yuanshi formation. It was fierce, slaughtering any lone wolves caught inside. Qin Ting watched the arrogant Yuanshi sect, sneered, and then struck with a palm. A giant hand slammed down from above, hitting the Yuanshi formation. The formation shattered, and the Yuanshi sect spat blood. Before they could react, Qin Ting sneered, "This tree isn't for you Yuanshi sect to even look at. Get out of here." Chapter 35. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Yuanshi sect elder, furious and humiliated, spat out, "Qin Ting. We're a sacred cultivation ground in the eastern wasteland. How dare you disrespect us like this?" Qin Ting just smirked, his eyes mocking. The elder seethed with rage, itching to tear into Qin Ting. But he was only at the supernatural power realm, about as strong as Yan Han, who Qin Ting had already beaten into a catatonic state. He was currently a walking shell back at their camp. He didn't dare risk it. The Yuancher sect elder shot one last resentful look at the tree and snarled, "Let's go." He stormed off toward the other side halls, the other disciples following, their arrogance completely deflated. Everyone else was elated. They'd all seen the Yuancher sect's earlier arrogance, especially with their large sacrifice formation that had strangled countless unaffiliated cultivators. Some of them hadn't even intended to oppose the Yuancher sect but were still killed. Now, seeing them leave with their tails between their legs, everyone rejoiced. The area around Qin Ting crackled with power. Standing amidst the lightning, hands clasped behind his back, he headed toward the sacred tree. Thunder light swirled around him, creating a veritable thunder field that stretched for miles. Wherever he went, powerful figures fell from the sky, helpless against his might. In this underground palace, Qin Ting was simply unstoppable. Unaffiliated cultivators scrambled out of his way, and an empty path appeared between Qin Ting and the sacred tree. "Yield, and you live. Stand in my way, and you die." Everyone was buzzing with excitement. Was this the power of a true prodigy? As Qin Ting approached the sacred tree, disciples from the major holy grounds finally snapped and attacked. Disciples from the Pilgrim sect, the Xingyue sect, and the ancient shrine launched a coordinated assault, unleashing a barrage of dazzling spells at Qin Ting. The Chaoxing sect disciples worked together to summon a massive mountain, a magical weapon, that hurtled down, aiming to crush Qin Ting. Fu Mingzhu, a beautiful Xingyue sect disciple, purred, "Star Sword." Instantly, a magical sword made of pure starlight materialized, almost slicing through the underground palace. Zhou Qian, the top disciple from the ancient shrine, transformed into a towering giant, covered in Taoist runes like an ancient demon god. Disciples behind him channeled their mana into the giant, empowering it. The giant lumbered forward and lunged at Qin Ting. A Qianyuan sect disciple asked Mu Qingyi nervously, "Senior Sister Mu, should we join in?" Mu Qingyi glanced at Qin Ting, her expression unreadable, and shook her head slightly. "If they can't stop senior brother Qin Ting, our attack won't matter. If they somehow succeed, we'd have to fight them immediately. There's no point in acting now." The disciple sighed and stepped back. But only Mu Qingyi knew the real reason. All eyes were on the scene. The attacks from the three holy ground disciples were earth-shattering. Qin Ting laughed, casually extending two fingers of his right hand. A beam of sword light shot out from between his eyebrows, spinning and shattering the mountain weapon above him. He casually raised his left hand, catching the star sword in midair. With a slight squeeze, the sword dissolved into stardust, vanishing into the air. Then, he strode forward and faced Zhou Qian's giant form. He thrust out a palm, striking the giant, who coughed up blood and reverted to his normal form. Zhou Qian crashed into his fellow disciples like a meteor, instantly unconscious. The ancient shrine disciples panicked and rushed to his aid. In the blink of an eye, Qin Ting had defeated the combined forces of three holy ground disciples. It was as easy as taking a stroll. With a flick of the wrist, they were reduced to ashes. One man against the world. Silence fell. Everyone stared at Qin Ting, frozen in disbelief. It was unimaginable. The disciples from the three holy grounds were all geniuses, their true disciples hailed as young heroes. They had reached the supernatural power realm before the age of 40, mastering countless magical techniques, and were proud of their strength against their peers. But today, despite joining forces, the disciples of the three holy places had been utterly defeated by Qin Ting alone. Qin Ting was also at the supernatural power realm, but the gap between them was unbridgeable, inspiring despair. A lone cultivator murmured in awe, "The greatest of the younger generation in the eastern wasteland. How fortunate are we to witness such a legend." Chapter 36. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Ting's mind conjured a massive bell right before his eyes. The bell's surface was etched with Taoist symbols and swirling dragons, clearly indicating a magical artifact of immense power. The Zhenlong bell. Qin Ting flicked his finger, and the bell resonated. A deafening thud sent visible sound waves ripping outwards. Cultivators in the air felt their blood surge and their magic power unravel, losing their footing and plummeting to the ground. Not only were the lone cultivators affected, but the 3 holy sites formations instantly crumbled. Each disciple was so violently shaken that blood streamed from their eyes, ears, noses, and mouths, sending them tumbling from the sky. These formations, once capable of crushing countless powerful opponents, were now easily shattered by Qin Ting with a single magical artifact. Even the true disciples, like Fu Mingzhu, struggled to withstand the force, their ears ringing like thunder and their vision blurring with stars. They felt utterly nauseous. They were aghast. They had been defeated so easily, without even a direct confrontation. A feeling of hopelessness washed over them, threatening to shatter their very Tao hearts. Qin Ting, with deliberate precision, spared only the Xiantian sect and Qianyuan sect disciples from the attack. The Xiantian sect disciples, witnessing Qin Ting's devastating display of power, were ecstatic. "Brother, you're incredible!" They cheered. A chill ran down the spines of everyone in the Qianyuan sect. The disciples were thankful that they hadn't acted against Qin Ting earlier, or they would have shared the same fate as the Pilgrim sect, the Ancient Shrine, and the Xingyue sect. Mu Qingyi herself was momentarily captivated by Qin Ting's extraordinary presence. At that moment, Qin Ting shone brighter than the sun, radiating charisma. He sighed softly, "Let's go." He nodded slightly to Qin Ting, expressing his gratitude. He then led the Qianyuan sect disciples to a side chamber, effectively abandoning their pursuit of the fire cloud divine tree. Qin Ting had given them a chance before, and to fight him again would be a futile exercise in self-humiliation. Qin Ting approached the sacred tree and with a wave of his hand, the fire cloud divine tree vanished into his divine mansion. Now under his control, the Xiantian sect disciples erupted with excitement. "Congratulations on acquiring this treasure, senior brother." Seeing the fire cloud divine tree secured, the others scattered into the side chambers, eager to continue their treasure hunt. "Come on, this underground palace is vast. There have to be treasures in those other chambers." "Yeah. Let's get moving." The disciples from the 3 holy sites, having recovered somewhat, also saw that the sacred tree had been taken by Qin Ting, and they didn't dare to challenge him, turning instead to explore the other side halls. The remaining Xiantian sect disciples gathered around Qin Ting, awaiting his instructions. With a thought, Qin Ting extracted fire cloud fruits from the fire cloud divine tree within his divine mansion. Appearing between his eyebrows, the fruits flew to each of the disciples. "Take these fruits," Qin Ting instructed, "and leave the underground palace immediately. Don't participate in the treasure hunt any further." Qin Ting knew that the emergence of the Earth Emperor Xuanhua would inevitably lead to a bloody conflict. These disciples, lacking sufficient strength, wouldn't stand a chance. Continuing onward would only lead to heavy casualties. The disciples were taken aback, not expecting Qin Ting to give them fire cloud fruit. They also understood that Qin Ting was concerned about their safety. Overwhelmed with gratitude, they secretly vowed to train diligently so they could be of help to Qin Ting in the future. Tears welled in Su Hao's eyes. "Senior brother Qin, we won't let you down. We're willing to dedicate ourselves to you," the other disciples echoed, bowing respectfully. "We're willing to do everything we can for you, senior brother." Qin Ting nodded slightly, waiting for the disciples to depart. He turned and headed toward a side hall, with Niayu and Elder Lu quickly following. Upon reaching the hall, Qin Ting and the others fully grasped the immensity of the underground palace. The main hall connected to numerous side chambers, extending in every direction like a labyrinth. Many lone cultivators were already ransacking the side halls, fighting over pills and magical implements. The entire underground palace had turned into a battlefield. Qin Ting and his companions, uninterested in the elixirs and rudimentary techniques, pressed on. Those who saw Qin Ting fell silent, backing away in fear of accidentally offending him. 2 days passed. Qin Ting and his group traversed countless side halls, yet had still not explored the entirety of the underground palace, demonstrating its sheer scale. Suddenly, Qin Ting heard the sounds of fighting coming from a side hall. Among the noises was the voice of a woman yelling. Qin Ting's eyes narrowed. It was Mu Qingyi's voice. Inside a side hall, the Qianyuan sect members were in dire condition. Most of the disciples lay injured on the ground, and those still standing were barely clinging to life. Before them, Mu Qingyi battled a fiery red giant tiger demon. The demonic beast radiated power equivalent to the peak of the magical realm, and being a fire-type creature, it thrived in the underground palace, enhancing its strength and abilities. Mu Qingyi fought grimly. The monster suddenly lunged, instantly inflicting heavy casualties on the unsuspecting Qianyuan sect disciples. Now, she was left to fight on her own, desperately trying to activate her magic talisman, but the monster's relentless attacks gave her no opportunity. She was only at the divine will realm and couldn't activate the magic weapon. The giant tiger monster was extremely crafty. From the very beginning, it severely injured the strong man in the peak magical realm who protected her. Most of the remaining disciples are in the divine will realm. How can they defeat this monster? Now that her magic power is almost exhausted, she feels a little desperate. Is she going to die here today? The giant tiger monster intensified its attack, unleashing a torrent of flames, carrying a wave of destruction. The remaining Qianyuan sect disciples cried out, "Be careful. Senior Sister Mu." No. Mu Qingyi, devoid of magic power, braced herself for death, closing her eyes. Suddenly, a figure materialized before her. His robes billowed, and his aura was as vast as the ocean, like a god descending. It was Qin Ting. Chapter 37. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qin Ting suddenly appeared in front of Mu Qingyi, casually waving his hand to disperse the lava aura. He then pointed a finger, and the giant tiger beast trembled before collapsing with a small hole appearing on its head and blood flowing out. In the blink of an eye, the giant tiger monster that nearly destroyed the Qianyuan sect was instantly killed by Qin Ting. Turning to Mu Qingyi with a smile, Qin Ting asked softly, "Junior Sister Mu, are you all right?" Mu Qingyi, with a complicated expression, bowed slightly and said, "Thank you for your help, Senior Brother Qin." The rest of the Qianyuan sect members echoed, "Thank you for your rescue, Senior Brother Qin." The elder of the Qianyuan sect, seriously injured by the giant tiger, insisted on getting up and bowing to Qin Ting. "Thank you, Nephew Qin. If it weren't for you." He was immensely grateful. The safety of the Qianyuan sect disciples was secondary. Mu Qingyi's well-being was paramount. As the headmaster's daughter, she was the Qianyuan sect's prized possession. Thinking this, the elder bowed deeply to Qin Ting. "Elder, no need to be so formal," Qin Ting said with a smile. "The Qianyuan sect and my Xiantian sect have always been allies. How could I stand by while your sect is in trouble?" That everyone in the Qianyuan sect was impressed by Qin Ting's approachable nature and immense power. Mu Qingyi gazed at Qin Ting, struck by his majestic and handsome appearance, and his incredible power at such a young age. How could she not admire the most outstanding member of the younger generation in the eastern wasteland? Initially, Mu Qingyi's positive opinion of Qin Ting had been negatively affected by Yi Qiu, but now, witnessing Qin Ting single-handedly stop the great demon, overpower the masters of the three holy lands, and save her from danger, she felt differently. She had known Yi Qiu for a long time and considered him a brother. She had been relieved to hear of his escape. Thinking of Yi Qiu's hatred for Qin Ting, she now felt that Qin Ting wasn't the person Yi Qiu made him out to be. Brother Yi is too extreme. She thought. Mu Qingyi said, "I will definitely visit you to thank you in person for saving my life, Senior Brother Qin." The Qianyuan sect elder beamed, happy to see this interaction. Qin Ting was a true disciple of the Xiantian sect and its designated holy son. The Xiantian sect was a top-tier cultivation holy land in the eastern wasteland, even more powerful than the Qianyuan sect. Qin Ting's father, Emperor Qin, was a powerful virtual god, on par with the leader of the Qianyuan sect, Mu Leng. Mu Leng had privately admitted that Emperor Qin possessed superior cultivation methods. Moreover, Qin Ting himself was exceptional, reaching the realm of supernatural powers at 18. This feat was unprecedented, making him a virtual god in the future. Some even claimed that he had a chance to enter the legendary realm of god transformation. A perfect match. As for Yi Qiu, the elder sneered inwardly. How could such a commoner dare to aspire to the Qianyuan sect's jewel? Compared to Qin Ting, there was no comparison. fortunately, the young lady only had some appreciation for Yi Qiu and wasn't truly in love with him. The more the Qianyuan sect elder looked at Qin Ting, the more he liked him, and the more enthusiastic he became. Qin Ting was puzzled. Why is this old guy smiling so strangely? Mu Qingyi knew exactly what her elder was thinking and glared at him, realizing his loss of composure. The elder blushed and remained silent. Qin Ting then asked, "What are your plans, junior sister Mu?" Mu Qingyi looked at the miserable state of the disciples around her and sighed. After this battle, exploring the underground palace was no longer possible. Fortunately, Qin Ting arrived in time, and no one was seriously injured. She felt even more grateful to Qin Ting. Mu Qingyi replied, "We're preparing to leave the underground palace and return to Kaoshan City to rest. I'll definitely come to visit you when you return to Kaoshan City, senior brother Qin." Qin Ting smiled, "You're welcome anytime." Chapter 38. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the Qianyuan sect folks packed up, Qin Ting and his crew went back on the hunt for the Earth Emperor's Xuanhua. These past few days, this underground palace had turned into a real dog-eat-dog world. People were cutting each other's throats left and right. You really saw the dark side of human nature. Qin Ting's brain suddenly went ding. He got this weird feeling, like something was pointing him in the right direction. He was stoked. He knew this was the universe sending him a message, all thanks to his crazy good luck. This luck stat was the real deal. Which just made him want Yi Qiu's leftover 80 points even more. Qin Ting led Niayu and Elder Lu to a side room. This room was tiny and empty. Most people wouldn't even bother looking, but Qin Ting just had this feeling that the Earth Emperor's Xuanhua was hidden here. He eyed the floor, and on a hunch, he slammed his palm down. The floor shattered, and bam! A tunnel. Niayu and Elder Lu were floored. Who would have guessed there was another tunnel in this whole underground maze? Everyone just figured there had to be some crazy valuable treasure here. The sacred tree in the main hall was the big prize. Once Qin Ting snagged that, everyone fanned out, hitting up the side rooms, hoping to find something else cool, but turns out, the sacred tree was just a decoy. The real treasure was stashed under the whole thing. Qin Ting couldn't help but marvel at his insane luck. Without it, he would have never stumbled onto this hidden entrance. Qin Ting went down the tunnel first, with Niayu and Elder Lu hot on his heels. After covering the entrance, they floated down the tunnel. The tunnel was super long, and the dim lights gave it this spooky vibe. They flew for a while and finally reached the end. Popping out of the tunnel, they found themselves in a secret chamber. It was bare bones, with weird symbols all over the walls, but the moment they stepped inside, their eyes locked onto something in the middle of the room. A jade platform, and on the platform, a flame. It was breathtaking, stunningly beautiful, and radiating this crazy destructive energy. It was a wild mix of soul-stirring beauty and world-ending power. Qin Ting's eyes went wide. The Earth Emperor's Xuanhua. Niayu and Elder Lu were over the moon. Niayu bowed, "Congrats, young master. You found the Earth Emperor's Xuanhua." After seeing how things played out over the last few days, Elder Lu knew this was it. He had to make a splash and impress Qin Ting. It sucked that Qin Ting was going full-on beast mode in the main hall. He never had a chance to jump in. Now, Qin Ting was gonna try and tame the Xuanhua. Elder Lu was chomping at the bit to stand guard. Even if he didn't get any glory, at least he'd be there, pulling his weight. Elder Lu was secretly hoping some clueless schmucks would wander in so he could show off. Qin Ting gave a nod, flicked his sleeve, and said, "Niayu, Elder Lu, protect me. Anyone who barges in here gets iced." Niayu and Elder Lu bowed, "Yes, sir." Qin Ting walked up to the Earth Emperor's Xuanhua and sat down cross-legged. He sent his aura out, wrapping it around the flame, trying to pin it down. The Xuanhua didn't like that one bit. It started getting rowdy, acting like it had a mind of its own. Boom! The whole underground palace started shaking. Everyone inside freaked out. What's happening? Is the whole place about to cave in? Maybe we should bail. I've already grabbed a bunch of pills and techniques down here. Yeah, nothing's worth dying over. Let's get out of here. The freeloaders bolted out of the underground palace. After days of searching and battling, they had gotten their fill of loot. The disciples from the big-name sect searched high and low for the source of the shaking, but they came up empty. They eventually decided to head out too. Even though Qin Ting had swiped the sacred tree, they had still snagged some decent goodies over the past few days. 2 days later, back in the secret chamber, Qin Ting was pulling out all the stops to subdue the Earth Emperor's Xuanhua. His body was pumping out a steady stream of aura, like a bottomless ocean. The Xuanhua's energy, on the other hand, was starting to fade. Niayu and Elder Lu exchanged glances. They knew Qin Ting was about to close the deal and tame the flame. Qin Ting was feeling pretty good himself. The Earth Emperor's Xuanhua was one of the top fires in the world. It was a gift from nature, super rare, and would be a huge boost for him, but then, out of nowhere, everything went sideways. A figure shot out from the shadows and charged straight at Qin Ting. It was Yi Qiu. Niayu and Elder Lu were shocked and moved to stop him, but a guy in white popped up in front of them, blocking their path, grinning at them. It was senior brother Jiang Zhongbai from the Shantian sect. Chapter 39. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Qin Ting trio discovered the tunnel first and entered the secret room, believing they were the first to arrive. Naturally, Niayu and Elder Lu guarded the entrance. Little did they know, Yi Qiu and Jiang Zhongbai had been hiding inside for quite some time. Qin Ting's heart sank. Yi Qiu and Jiang Zhongbai couldn't have picked a worse time. He'd spent the last 2 days suppressing the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire, draining his energy and leaving him utterly exhausted. Yi Qiu grinned. Qin Ting. Today's the day you bite the dust. But with that, he threw a punch. This strike carried immense power, rivaling a full-force blow from a master. Hard to believe Yi Qiu was still just in the divine will realm. Niayu, enraged, roared, "You backstabbing thief!" He charged at Qin Ting, while Jiang Zhongbai unleashed 5 beams of sword light that shot from his back toward Niayu. Looking deranged, Niayu's body surged with dark energy, transforming into black pythons to fight the sword beams. The pythons shattered, and Niayu, pale, stumbled back, spitting blood. Jiang Zhongbai's attack had actually injured him. Elder Lu looked shocked, recognizing Jiang Zhongbai instantly. He shouted, "Jiang Zhongbai, you're insane. You've joined an outsider to kill a fellow disciple." Jiang Zhongbai simply sneered at Elder Lu. Having gone this far, he wasn't about to second-guess himself. He hadn't expected Elder Lu to be there protecting Qin Ting, though. Jiang Zhongbai's expression darkened. The plan was for Yi Qiu to strike while Qin Ting was weak from subduing the Earth Emperor's fire. Then, Jiang Zhongbai would deal with Niayu before teaming up with Yi Qiu to finish off Qin Ting. Victory seemed assured. But now, Elder Lu's presence threw a wrench in the works. Elder Lu was at the peak of the supernatural power realm, practically in the divine platform realm, a formidable opponent. And Niayu was no pushover either, a strong Shintai master in his own right. The gap between him and Jiang Zhongbai wasn't that big. A quick victory against both of them working together was unlikely. Elder Lu felt a chill, knowing he was in a seriously dangerous spot. If anything happened to Qin Ting, Elder Lu couldn't even imagine the fury of Emperor Qin. It would shake the entire eastern wasteland. Elder Lu focused, his aura intensifying. He drew a golden sword, flowing and adaptable like a river, and attacked Jiang Zhongbai. Niayu roared, joining the fight. The 3 powerhouses clashed in a brutal battle. Facing Yi Qiu's punch, Qin Ting narrowed his eyes and countered with his own, meeting Yi Qiu's strike head-on. Yi Qiu groaned, stumbling backward and spitting blood. A strand of Qin Ting's hair was gently lifted by the wind, but he continued refining the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire. Even after 2 days of this, he's still this strong. Yi Qiu was in disbelief. Qin Ting's power was unbelievable. After all his work for 2 days to try to conquer the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire, Qin Ting's mana should be almost exhausted. But on the other hand, Yi Qiu, who was at his peak, came at Qin Ting with everything he had, but Qin Ting was able to block him easily. Yi Qiu roared, "You're running on fumes, how long can you hold me off?" He unleashed a barrage of Taoist techniques, each accompanied by thunderous force. Qin Ting remained unmoved. A 5-story pagoda appeared above his head, shielding him from Yi Qiu's attacks while he continued refining the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire. Yi Qiu was getting worried. If Qin Ting successfully obtained the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire, all their efforts would be for nothing. Yi Qiu gritted his teeth. A flame appeared between his eyebrows, the Jinling mysterious fire he'd conquered earlier. The 37th strange fire. He held it with both hands, compressing the inverted flame into a flaming lotus. Buddha's wrathful lotus, that the flaming lotus flew toward Qin Ting, radiating a terrifying aura of destruction. A mocking glint flashed in Qin Ting's eyes, and a large cauldron appeared between his eyebrows, covering him. As the lotus neared, the cauldron suddenly glowed brightly, with the faint sound of a dragon's roar. But the flaming lotus didn't strike the cauldron. Instead, it abruptly changed direction and slammed into the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire. Damn! Qin Ting's face changed drastically. Chapter 40. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom! Instantly, the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire went wild, flames erupting and engulfing Qin Ting. The heat blast ripped through the secret room, turning it into a powder keg. Yi Qiu, Jiang Zhongbai, Niayu, and Elder Lu were all thrown from the underground palace by the force of the blast. Boom! Explosions rocked the Lianyan mountain range, even the mountain city felt the tremors. What was that? Earthquake. What's going on? Monks poured into the sky from the mountain city, trying to figure out what was happening. They saw flames consuming the underground palace. How is this possible? Back in the side hall of the underground palace, Yi Qiu was losing it. Ha ha ha, Qin Ting is dead. He's finally dead. Ha ha ha, a chill ran down Elder Lu's spine. Qin Ting, gone. He was filled with despair. Even if he managed to escape, he'd be facing the music back at the sect. Failing to protect Qin Ting meant he'd be exiled to the mines, a coolie for life, even if they didn't kill him outright after all his years of service. Niayu was practically rabid. You deserve to die. I'm going to kill you. He threw himself at Jiang Zhongbai, recklessly abandoning all defense, aiming for vital points, uncaring of the cost. Elder Lu gritted his teeth and joined the attack. Dying in battle here was a better legacy than returning to the sect. Jiang Zhongbai was in ecstasy. With Qin Ting gone, the weight on his heart was lifted. He watched Niayu and Elder Lu charge with a sardonic grin. Now that Qin Ting was dead, he needed to silence these two to prevent word of his betrayal from spreading. And Yi Qiu. Only the dead can keep secrets. Deep underground, Qin Ting was in dire straits. He was the first target when the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire erupted. It hit him like a bomb going off. The protective magic item surrounding him disintegrated instantly, turning to ash. His cauldron was cracking and looked like it would shatter any second. Qin Ting's heart sank. He was out of magic power, unable to activate any defensive spells. The cauldron cracked. He knew he was in trouble. The cauldron exploded. Qin Ting was in despair. Was this it? Was he really going to die? Then, the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire engulfed Qin Ting in a sea of flames. Huh? Qin Ting opened his eyes. Was he still alive? The fire calmed after swallowing him, the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire returning to its spot above the jade platform. What was going on? He quickly pulled a magic item from his dimensional storage, a paper substitute. The item from the system lottery. It could absorb a fatal attack. Qin Ting broke out in a cold sweat. He'd be dead without it. The paper substitute spontaneously combusted, turning to ash and disappearing. Its job was done. Qin Ting narrowed his eyes, looked at the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire, and accessed the system interface. He went to the mall and saw the Xianyang dragon fruit. It cost 20,000 redemption points. The system confirmed, host, are you sure you want to spend 20,000 villain points to exchange for the Xianyang dragon fruit? Do it, Qin Ting said coldly. The fruit materialized in his hand. He sat down and swallowed it. A wave of heat surged through him, restoring all his cultivation levels. More than that, his power was rising rapidly. He broke through to the peak of the magical power level. And he still felt most of the fruit's energy was untapped, stored within him. This Xianyang dragon fruit was truly a treasure, worth protecting for centuries. After absorbing it, Qin Ting sensed a hint of connection with the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire. It wasn't resisting him like before, he sneered. He would conquer the flames. Yi Qiu, Jiang Zhongbai. He murmured, a chilling grin on his face. Back in the underground palace, Niayu and Elder Lu were exhausted and weakened. Niayu, still manic, continued to attack Jiang Zhongbai without any regard for his own safety. Dark energy swirled around him, turning him into a demon. The demonic energy transformed the surroundings, creating an almost hellish landscape. A massive black python burst forth from Niayu's body, trying to swallow Jiang Zhongbai whole. Jiang Zhongbai smirked. He raised his right hand, and a giant hand appeared in the void, seized the python, and crushed it. The giant hand then reached for Niayu, intent on crushing him to death. Elder Lu tried to help, but Yi Qiu held him back. Yi Qiu, of the evil sect, was incredibly powerful for someone at the divine will level. Even powerful people at the pinnacle of magical power were at a disadvantage against him. Niayu closed his eyes, waiting for death. He hated himself for being so useless, for failing to avenge his master. Suddenly, a wall of fire appeared before him. Before the giant hand could touch it, it vaporized and dissipated into the air. Who is it? Jiang Zhongbai demanded, his face darkening. He had a bad feeling. A figure emerged from the flames, like a god of fire descending. Niayu recognized the figure and shouted, "Master!" Yi Qiu paled. How is that possible? Weren't you killed by the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire? Qin Ting looked at Yi Qiu, his eyes burning like a god's. I have to admit, he said coldly, you've made me angry. Chapter 41. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Zhongbai's face was dark. He hadn't expected Qin Ting to survive such a deadly situation. Judging by Qin Ting's powerful aura, he'd clearly mastered the Earth Emperor's mysterious fire and reached the peak of the magical power realm. There was no way to win today. Yi Qiu looked almost deranged. Seeing his enemy standing before him unharmed filled him with shock and fury. He glared at Qin Ting, his voice like a screech owl, "Why aren't you dead?" Qin Ting looked at Yi Qiu coldly, his heart full of hatred. It had been a close call. One wrong move and he would have been finished. A cold glint flashed in Qin Ting's eyes as he calmly said, "Brother Jiang, Yi Qiu, how would you like to die?" Yi Qiu roared, "We'll see who dies." He began to power up. His face flushed, and the shadowy image of a god appeared behind him, bathing him in divine light. The god seemed to be made of pure gold. Suddenly, the godly shadow emitted a blinding light, unleashing a barrage of powerful attacks towards Qin Ting. It was a relentless storm, threatening to obliterate everything in its path. Qin Ting remained expressionless. He raised his right hand, and a flame appeared in his palm, transforming into a golden crow. The golden crow expanded rapidly, its body radiating a violent aura. The savage power of an ancient demon beast filled the air, as if it had come to life, dominating the heavens and incinerating everything. The golden crow soared towards Yi Qiu, obliterating the thousands of magical spells emitted by the godly phantom. The golden crow slammed into Yi Qiu, shattering the godly shadow that surrounded him. It dissolved into golden particles, floating in the air. Yi Qiu went pale, coughing up blood, his power instantly diminished. I'm no match for him yet. Hatred consumed Yi Qiu, he had to escape. Once I break through to the supernatural power realm, taking Qin Ting's life will be easy. His mind racing, Yi Qiu transformed into a streak of light and fled. Seeing Yi Qiu running, Qin Ting smirked and extended a finger. A massive finger descended from the sky, crushing the surrounding space. Yi Qiu was about to be crushed, but Qin Ting suddenly relented, reducing his power. Yi Qiu was struck, spitting out blood, but his speed increased dramatically. Qin Ting casually launched a Taoist technique, adding a hidden talisman, sending it after Yi Qiu like a meteor. A nightmare talisman. Sensing the attack behind him, Yi Qiu roared, Xuanhua Tian transformation. Li fire shield. A shield of flames appeared behind him, shimmering with otherworldly light and endless flames. The Taoist spell was blocked by the Lihua shield, but the nightmare talisman slipped through and struck Yi Qiu's back. Yi Qiu, focused on escaping, didn't notice. The nightmare talisman turned into black energy and entered the back of his head. Seemingly unaware, Yi Qiu poured all his power into escaping, vanishing from the underground palace. Qin Ting thought, Yi Qiu, killing you would be too easy. You call yourself righteous? You're in love with Mu Qingyi, aren't you? I'm going to tear your body, your reputation, your everything apart. After Yi Qiu fled, Qin Ting turned to Jiang Zhongbai. He smiled and asked, Senior brother Jiang, why aren't you running? Jiang Zhongbai laughed. Why should I? He knew the game was up. There was nowhere in the eastern wasteland for him to hide. Once the news broke, he would be disowned by the Xiantian sect and hunted down like a dog, living in constant fear. He refused to live like that. Jiang Zhongbai stood with his hands clasped behind his back, laughing, I've never been weaker than anyone. Junior brother Qin, we're both geniuses. It's a shame we've never had a proper fight. Today, will you fight me to the death? His white robes fluttered, and he was once again the confident, high-spirited senior brother of the Xiantian sect. Qin Ting was silent for a moment, then said calmly, Of course. I'll be glad to send you on your way. Jiang Zhongbai laughed, Please.